Section 1904. It is Thursday, August the 14th, and this is a first place podcast for a first place city. Two first place teams here in America's finest city. What could be better than this? The San Diego Padres, San Diego Football Club. It's a first class town. John, how are we doing today? Did you wake up a little spring in your step? Ready to rock? Just ready to hit the ground running? Because we're all about being in first place, baby.
Honestly, yes. If you give me a second, I'm going to move the microphone away. First place! Had to do that. My day yesterday, my afternoon, ended up being very chaotic for personal reasons. Had to do a lot of parenting, a lot of running around, a lot of all that stuff. At the end of the night, I actually went out and had what is supposed to be the best burger in San Diego. I'm not sure if I can verify that claim or not. And at the end of the night, I was dead tired. So I threw on the Dodgers-Angels game. The Dodgers were winning. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I opened my phone and I was like, I wonder. And I checked the score and I was like, holy shit! The Padres are in first place all by themselves. Somehow the Dodgers blew it. And then I went and I read Dylan Hernandez talking about how they fucked up this team. They ruined it by not upgrading the bullpen at the trade deadline. It gave me a lot of hope, Darren. I'm high on hopium right now.
All right, good. Well, you should be. 69 and 52. I always see that one image that everybody posts on social media of everybody partying down in the gas lamp. Every time the Padres do anything of significance, they win a baseball game, they win a series against the Dodgers. It's like, oh, look at everybody going crazy in the gas lamp. And I feel like it's appropriate to talk about the first place club here on August 14th. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens by Sunday night with the Padres and the Dodgers starting a series tomorrow. But man, that was just an utter curb stomping in San Francisco, winning 3 straight, 20-3. Let me just add into the schadenfreude that I'm sure exists out there for Sleepy Bob and daydreaming about which golf course he's going to be playing here soon. This is Tim Kawakami, who's a longtime Bay Area reporter, personality. He's now writing at sfstandard.com. This was Tim Kawakami today during a flub-filled and frankly ominous second inning, when the Giants essentially invited the Padres to score 7 runs on the way to an 11-1 humiliation. The Giants looked and felt like they were 1,000 steps from contention, and the mood in Oracle Park got as dark as it possibly can get on a sunny day in Mission Bay. Something is wrong here. Something is very, very wrong. It's a relatively small sample size for a time-tested manager, but the sloppiness has lasted for a while and begs the question, amongst many others, is Bob Melvin the right guy for 2026?
Oh, no.
Has anything the Giants have done for several months indicated that they're fully prepared, focused, and energized? I looked at what Stephen Voigt is doing in Cleveland, or Dan Wilson in Seattle, or Pat Murphy in Milwaukee, or how well the Padres have done since Melvin exited that job to move to the Giants. And, well, nobody is seeing any of the same things from Melvin with this team, either this year or last. That's not to put it all a high percentage of the blame on Melvin, a man Buster Posey thought well enough of to immediately tab as his manager once Farhan Zaidi moved out, and to pick up his 2026 option on July 1st. Just had his option picked up. Posey didn't have to do a thing, but he did them. And knowing Posey, the last thing he wants to do is scapegoat the manager, just because that's usually what happens in losing situations. He goes on to say, here's the thing. It's not all on Melvin. But he says, if he gets to that point, Posey's going to have a strong candidate list. He does say, I'll know. Bob Melvin was Farhan Zaidi's choice to replace Gabe Kapler 2 off seasons ago. Posey kept Melvin on, in large as another nod to stability, and it hasn't worked. 80 and 82 last year, currently 59 and 62. Unless they pull out of the tailspin, they won't get close to 80. Melvin remains quite popular in the clubhouse. There are good reasons for this. Solid manager runs a solid clubhouse, but right now, so what? That's Tim Kawakami, sfstandard.com. Just figured I'd sprinkle a little bit of that in here as everybody's feeling good on an off day for the Padres, John.
I just wanted to know, and I started thinking about this in the 3rd inning after that 2nd inning. I wanted to know if Bob made his twilight round, because
Presidio, 5 o'clock, got to go.
Right. I gotta get 2 hours in before the sun goes down. I hope he did. Look, that Giants team stinks. And I don't mean like in the Tim Kawakami way of like I've watched them a bunch and they make mistakes. Just 1 through 9 in the lineup. You know what it looks like? It looks like a Padres team from like 5 years ago. They kind of stink. They can't hit. The pitching staff seems like it runs out after 2 or 3 guys. The bullpen's kind of nothing special. the funny thing is, like, if you wanted a Stephen Voigt to be the manager, you had your shot with Buster Posey. Apparently, he wasn't interested in the manager position, just wanted to be in the front office. Maybe he didn't want to travel and be away from his family, and I'm not going to put anything against him there. But I think they're stuck with Bob, and I think Bob is probably rightfully going to be like, yeah, give me a better roster. But that's not the Padres' problem.
No.
They get to play this team again in a few days. They're probably pretty excited about that because not only is this team not good, they look like collectively they look like they may have been looking forward to their twilight rounds.
Correct. By the way, they also had Stephen Voigt.
That's true.
I think he played there right up into the end. I remember I was doing radio up there for a summer in 2019 after 1090 went under, and everybody was talking about Stephen Voigt being the next manager of the team. He was still playing.
Really?
Yeah, they were talking about him replacing Bruce Bochy. So, wow. He was right there. They lost 13 of 14 at home in San Francisco. It's hard to imagine. But anyway, like you said, we'll see them again next week. Hopefully those things haven't turned themselves around. Bob can probably go hit Torrey South while he's here. Maybe Balboa. Hey, you mentioned that plans. Burger, the best burger. Let's. I don't want to.
We can talk about it.
What happened? Where was this best burger allegedly?
So there's a little burger shop that opened up, I'd say about a year ago, maybe two, in Oceanside called Tanner's Prime Burgers, and it was opened up by a Michelin chef who had cooked around, and I think he was from San Diego. He wanted to get back to San Diego, and he said he was very passionate about trying to make the best burger in San Diego. So instead of trying to get a job at Addison or starting his own, highfalutin restaurant, he decided to try and make the best burger shop in the world. And so they do all the extra stuff. It's very, very high quality beef. It's fries made in beef tallow before that became political. They make all their own. The RFK Jr. made deep frying your fries in beef tallow. Part of his Make America Healthy Again thing. He was like, stop using oil. It just needs to be beef fat. Cook them in beef fat. It's way healthier. And then he made this big deal because one of the fast food chains switched from seed oils to beef tallow, and RFK was visiting their locations and eating them and be like, they're the healthiest and best fries in the world. And so now when you see beef tallow fries, it's hard for me to not think of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Wow.
Who, by the way, the other day I had a thought of we've probably reached a point in which he is more popular, not popular positively, but more well known than his father, which is upsetting to me as someone who likes history and was a big fan of what RFK Sr. was about before he was assassinated. But yeah, so I had been seeing this all over social media. I wanted to go try this burger. It's a smash burger. They're heavy on the I don't know if you're big in the smash burgers.
Sure.
They're heavy on the lace, like the outer part that gets all crispy. And so it's kind of like an In-N-Out style burger. The one I got was similar to an In-N-Out double made animal
grilled
style.
or griddled? What is the cooking apparatus here?
I'm assuming, it's griddled, right? Because they got to smash it down onto the flat surface.
Well, but you don't want to smash it between the grill grates.
No. It's isn't the griddle the flat thing?
The griddle, right?
Yeah,
okay.
the flat top.
Griddle.
Yeah, so they got to smash it down on that, and they really smash the hell out of it. So imagine like an In-N-Out burger, but smashed down into a smash burger. And it was good. The fries were good. The sauce was good. The burger was good. I was so full. You could have rolled me out of there. I tried one of their milkshakes. I split it with my daughter and wife. It was good. The whole thing was good. But I had kept hearing best burger of your life, best burger in San Diego. You got to go to this place. There's always a line out the door. I get there, place is packed. There's a line out the door on a Wednesday, and I was like, man, this is going to be incredible. It was good. It was good. I don't know that I'm going to line it up against all the other smash burgers I've ever had in my life and be like, this one breaks the standard. It's a 10 out of 10. No, it was good. It was very good.
Okay.
I recommend it, but I don't think I would give it my crown. This is the thing that I keep on me.
But you're not disappointed, to be clear.
Not
right?
disappointed.
No expectations, no disappointment, as the phrase goes. You're not disappointed.
Yeah. No,
just think
not disappointed.
Okay.
It was good, but I for whatever reason, always in my head have a list of my top 3 to 5 burgers in San Diego County, and I don't know if this is going to crack the list or not.
Interesting. Of all the elements of a quality burger, you've left one off, and I was waiting for you to comment on the bun.
The bun, okay, so I was actually a little disappointed by the bun because it was like very
it's a big deal.
It was very spongy. It seemed like they were going for the In-N-Out bun, and I'm like, everything here is like In-N-Out, but like enhanced. And this is just a spongy In-N-Out bun, and like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it was like a McDonald's bun. It's like I want a little bit of a better bun, and there are places around town that'll give you a better burger and a better bun.
Okay, so not a top 5. No pictures, by the way, on the Discord channel.
No, I'm trying to live in the moment a little bit.
Okay.
Plus, it was very chaotic. There was a lot going on.
Right. Plus, sometimes being the guy that whips out the phone and takes a picture of the food, I don't know. Yeah. There was an ongoing conversation on the Discord channel the other day about bacon and whether people put bacon on burgers and where you can go wrong putting bacon on burgers as well. And if bacon isn't fully cooked right for the burger and ends up becoming chewy, do you just treat it like it's a side? So I guess you were not on the food tab on the Section 1904 Discord channel.
No, the last couple of days I've been bouncing around the entertainment tab, the politics tab, obviously Padres and SDFC. I think people have been leaving us stuff in the mailbag, but no, I've not been on the food channel in a few days. I did feel disappointed.
Did you do bacon?
I don't think bacon was an option, but I did not do bacon. And here's my hot burger food take of the day. You didn't ask for my rankings, and that's fine because I don't have them prepared. But I don't think Hodad's makes a very good burger.
Me too.
But I think their bacon is incredible. So if you are in a place where like as a group everyone's going to Hodad's, get the bacon on top. It'll make the burger experience much, much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fine burger. I don't think it's worth the wait.
Also that, yeah.
And there's always a wait, and forget about getting one at the ballpark, and that's not the way that's supposed to be made.
No.
So, yeah, all right. Well, we'll have to do this at some point, I guess, after our first place teams come crashing back down to earth. We'll spend an episode talking about burgers. Bottle Rocket, very good burger.
Very good burger.
Yeah, very good. Good indeed. All right, so where were we? Padres. So Padres, they sweep the Giants. The Giants are dead as a doornail. Pieces are being written by Bay Area reporters about Bob Melvin's future. And now another team, like you said, Dylan Hernandez is already ripping the Dodgers.
Burying them.
And a one-game lead, Michael King, Clayton Kershaw, Dylan Cease, and Blake Snell. How about that? And then Yu Darvish and Tyler Glasnow on Sunday. Those are your pitching matchups here. John, it should be what a weekend for the first place Padres, looking to put a little bit of distance between themselves and the Dodgers, who have just not been good. There's no other way to say it. They have a sub-500 record since the trade deadline. They look bad. Their bullpen was supposed to be addressed. It hasn't been addressed. People keep thinking, well, they're going to get some healthy bodies back, right? Tyler Glasnow's coming back. Blake Snell's, I don't know. Does any of this matter? Already now you're seeing a bit of the copium from some of the LA media. I saw, who was it yesterday? Steve Mason saying this could be the best thing that's ever happened to the Dodgers, falling out of first place. Now they have to pay attention. I'm like, oh, okay. Now they have to pay attention. All right, I guess. They just weren't paying attention, apparently. Yeah. So, but man, I love the way the Padres are playing. I love the way the Padres are the way they, their presence. They have a little, they have something noticeable. Forget about the 20-3 score. You could just see it. You've pointed this out all year. Like that dugout at times is not, you're like, what's going on in there? But, even yesterday, you see like there's a lot of things. Like it's a fun time to go to work if you're a San Diego Padre is what I'm trying to say. Absolutely.
And, I think Gavin Sheets said, someone asked him about like not playing as much. And he was like, hey man, winning's fun. Like I'm not going to get down about the fact that I'm not, I'm not getting playing time. We're winning and that's fun. And that makes everything easier and happier for everyone. Shout out Kevin Acee. We didn't do this on the air, but yesterday we were kind of laughing at his Luis Arraez stats because they were a little all over the place. Today he had some fantastic stats where he compared the San Diego Padres' first 17 games of this season to the most recent 17 games of the season and found that they're almost identical in terms of the offense. And I think maybe in terms of the pitching, ERA difference 270 for the first 17, 314 for the last 17. but like the team's average, the team's OBP, the team's slug is about the same. The amount of players who are hitting 300 or have OPS above 750 over the last 17 games, or players with more than 8 RBIs in 17 games, or run differential, runs per game. Basically, this is the team we saw to start the season. And I know it's not literally the team we saw to start the season, but offensively and defensively and pitching, it all seems like it's coming together. They're doing it without Fernando Tatis Jr. looking like an MVP candidate, which he was for the first 17 games of the season. That's probably a great sign. And it's fun to be rooting for the Padres right now. It does not look like it's fun to be a Dodger fan, but man, those are some scary names in the pitching matchups, some absolute opportunities for redemption. And I don't know that any of this is going to mean anything if these two teams meet in the playoffs, because the Dodgers bullpen could be really bad. But yesterday you started listing off their starting rotation, or the other day, and you listed like 6 guys that could be considered like ace pitchers on other teams in their starting rotation. 6! And I was like, okay, if they get to the playoffs, they can just be like, all right, we have 3 starters and 3 guys who come out of the bullpens. We're just splitting this thing in half. Good luck. And that would be terrifying. And that would look a lot like what they did last year, just the opposite of it, where it's like, this doesn't seem like it's going to make sense. Oh, never mind. They have enough arms to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you rattle through them, and it is very impressive on paper. But it's also a team that made some curious decisions. You pointed out, I haven't yet read Dylan Hernandez in the LA Times, but Dylan has never won. For as often as we would have Dylan on, people would be like, "Oh, get this Dodger honk off the radio." I'd be like, Dylan Hernandez, like he kills the Dodgers, man. Like he kills them on a regular basis. But when they deserve credit, he gives them credit. It's kind of the name of the game. But, they made some curious things. Like, what was the Dustin May thing? I don't know. So, like it just is a very curious group. It's hard to fully understand what it is that is going on there. And I will say something. So, there's a sense that going in there tomorrow that, should the Padres continue to play as the Padres have just played in San Francisco and as they played since the deadline, and the Dodgers continue to play as they played against the Angels and as they played since the deadline, there is something to the Padres believing that they can create an atmosphere at Dodger Stadium tomorrow where the crowd turns against the team. And that team up there has been, that fan base has been a little cranky, especially coming off a World Series championship. You would think, really? Is that? But there is a little of that, like, hey, like we take it to them early and we go out there and we just shove it in their tailpipe at the end of the game with our 5 horsemen or whatever. And
maybe 6.
We might have a situation where that crowd will start getting restless and turn on them a little bit. And that'll become a little bit of a thing when everybody starts feeling like, like this thing now is spiraling. So, just interesting, just like an interesting little tidbit of, we go up there, we do our thing, and they continue to play as they've played. We feel like we can create an atmosphere here where, maybe they're feeling it not just internally inside of the walls of the clubhouse, which I'm sure they'll all preach is the only thing that matters, but they'll start going, wait a second here, what the fuck, what is going on? And that can become a real thing. That's a real thing in sports sometimes with fan bases. If you can get a fan base to turn on its team, that becomes a factor, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what season this was. Maybe I was just talking with friends during the 2010 season, but I just remembered this morning. I had this phrase in my head, and I'm like, I know I've asked other Padre fans this question before. Do you know a magical season is happening while it's happening? Or do you have to wait until the end to see the end result to be like, that was a magical season? Because part of what makes a magical season is having expectations that go completely the opposite direction of what you're expecting. And back in, what was it, January, February, Padres are sitting around waiting for Roki Sasaki. And then the Dodgers get him, and it's like, oh, shit. We blew the offseason. We sat around waiting for Roki Sasaki. We blew our chance. Now he's on the Dodgers. Now they have, oh my God, they got Blake Snell too. Oh, geez. Oh, and Tanner Scott. And to add to Evan Phillips and Blake Trinan, this team's unbeatable. Oh, they got Teoscar Hernandez back. How the hell are we going to get? And like all of those players have either been bad or seriously injured for the Dodgers this year. And whatever the Padres are doing seems to be working out. They've had, The amount of health, I'm just going to say health luck, the amount of health luck that the Padres have had compared to what the Dodgers have had is incredible. And it explains some of what I was just talking about. But yeah, there was definitely heading into this season this feeling of not only did the Padres really screw up their offseason, but the Dodgers had dominated theirs and had just built this Death Star that you couldn't get past. And it's August 14th. It's not November 14th. There's still a lot of baseball left to be played, both regular season and playoffs. But right now, for whatever reason, I'd rather be the Padres than the Dodgers.
I say that with 100% clarity. I would rather be the Padres than the Dodgers. Not just being a homer here. I absolutely would. And, I do. I like a King coming back. Kershaw has been historically a Padre killer, but this isn't the same Kershaw. Not that he's not capable. Cease, I still think maybe a little bit of an axe to grind. Remember, he was right in the middle of some of the shenanigans that went on there at Dodger Stadium last time, where I think, even though everybody's vehement that he did not deliberately hit Pages, I do think he did. Pages all but admitted afterwards that he was stealing signs or relaying signs, which we've talked about a lot this week. But I think Cease still probably is thinking a little bit about last postseason and what happened to him. Darvish experience there, so him going up against Tyler Glass now. As far as it goes with where are we when it comes to? I want to see. I'm trying to look at Fangraphs.
Playoff?
Yeah, the division odds though. Where is that? Here, I have it right in front of me. Sorry, my apologies. I meant to have it up here. I got distracted. Let's see. To win the division, it's 62% LA, 38% Padres. Nobody else even picks up a percentage point or a tenth of a percentage point. So
hold on, because I'm looking at the same thing as you.
62.4 versus 37.5. Dodgers and Padres to win the division.
Oh, it's ranked by... Okay, this is funny. The Padres have the lead in the division. And I know that doesn't necessarily guarantee that they should have better odds to win the division. The Dodgers have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Padres. I was wondering why the Dodgers are ranked above the Padres on this list, even though they're a game back. And it's because they have 99% chance of making the playoffs, and the Padres only have 98% chance of making the playoffs. Yeah. A lot can change over the next few days. And as far as Dylan Cease goes, I have gone through this entire season thinking I'm still terrified of seeing Dylan Cease in a playoff game. Still absolutely terrified to see Dylan Cease in a playoff game. And Saturday's game, I think you said, is the one he's pitching against Blake Snell.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's not technically a playoff game, but that's a playoff game. That's a game that matters a lot to both teams. A game to determine first place against a team that you know is going to be in the playoffs, and you are going to be in the playoffs. I am really looking forward to seeing how Dylan Cease performs in that environment, because if he can come out and he can pitch a good game against the Dodgers in that situation, it's going to calm my fears quite a bit as far as seeing Dylan Cease start a playoff game later this year.
Is Dylan Cease the right-handed Blake Snell, or is Blake Snell the left-handed Dylan Cease? Discuss.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Hey, wait.
Hopefully he's just not out there, tipping pitches.
By the way, the one thing we didn't talk about in the Dennis Lin article about whether or not Robert Suarez was tipping pitches and whether or not AI was picking up on it. So our buddy Dylan from Letters to AJ loves to post video clips of when guys are relaying signs from second base to the batter. Loves to do it. And I love when he does it because I miss it all the time. There was a thing in that article, and I think it was Ruben Niebla, who said, when you see what looks like guys tipping pitches or relaying signs from second base to the batter, he's like, at least half the time they are pretending to relay signs just to fuck with us, just to make us think that that's what's going on, just to make us change our signs or to get in our heads. He's like, most of the time they're not relaying anything. And I thought that was brilliant because look, they call the pitch on the pitch comm thing now. They're not holding down the 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger. So the only way to relay a sign is if you're actually seeing the ball in the pitcher's glove. you're seeing the finger placement and you're going, okay, that's going to be a curveball based on where that's so hard to do. That's so much harder than looking and being like the catcher held down one finger. So I'm going to put my arms up because it's going to be a fastball.
Right. But that doesn't mean it's not happening.
No,
and it doesn't
no.
mean that certain teams, including the team that the Padres are going to face tomorrow,
will probably
don't have a reputation for being pretty aggressive, especially in the coaches' boxes.
Yeah.
About where they're positioned and such, and how they relay some of those signs to the hitters. And it's not like, I don't even think...
That's a strong accusation.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
The coaches?
Oh, yeah.
The coaches are relaying like what the pitches are to the batter?
That's the word on the street.
I'm going to keep an eye on that.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that any of us are qualified to detect it, but, these are amongst some of the more aggressive coaches. This is one of the more aggressive teams in terms of the dark arts. Freddie Freeman's known as a guy who can get into that. Mookie Betts is known as a guy that gets into that pretty well, right? Spent a lot of time with the Red Sox. Red Sox are right in the middle of all that stuff, too. So, yeah, I think that they are known as one of the dark arts type clubs in Major League Baseball, and I've heard that for years, that their coaches, that people are suspicious that their coaches are relaying signs. Again, just by position and stuff and things along those lines. And that Dylan Cease is a guy who Ruben Niebla wouldn't want me saying this, but he's been a guy who's, I don't want to say careless, maybe just not as mindful of showing himself a little bit. I mean, I think if you were to go ask people off the record, what their analysis was of the game that Dylan Cease started, some of you would say, hey, that was on short rest, and others would say the Dodgers had him. Like the Dodgers kind of had what was going on with him and short rest. So, probably a combination of both. But yeah, I mean, that sort of stuff's still out. It's still out there. I mean, those teams have reputations for a reason, John.
Yeah, and Niebla also made the point in that great article by Dennis Lin that I'm going to reference again of, look, when these guys get in high leverage situations, they're thinking about throwing the pitch. They're not thinking about where the ball is situated in their glove and how their fingers are. They're just thinking about beating the batter. And as a amateur golfer, I can tell you, like, it's hard to keep more than one thought in your head when you're so focused on trying to do something well. Can I throw a weird stat at you that I spotted this morning?
It's also by the way, it's also hard to hit. Like anybody who's ever watched batting practice knows not every one of those are line drives. Sometimes even in batting practice, they chop the ball on the ground. So, nothing's perfect here. Like it doesn't, there's no guarantee. Some guys don't even, we learned that about Juan Soto. Juan Soto doesn't even want to know what the signs are. That's why he wore the AirPods into the hitters meeting. He's like, I don't want to know these signs. I don't want that in my head.
Yeah.
So,
he's got a swing thought.
Yeah. Like he doesn't, some guys don't want to know. Like some guys really, I trust what I've heard here that Jose Altuve was one of those guys. Just didn't want to know. If you go back and you look through all the John Boy video, I don't know that Altuve was really somebody. But anyhow,
I have a stat I want to throw at you. But you mentioned Juan Soto, and I think about him a lot because my favorite thing that Juan Soto did, and he did it kind of a couple weeks after he got to the Padres and he was struggling a little bit. He told the media in response to a question, "When I'm right, you will see me hitting line drives over the shortstop's head." Like when you see that, when you see me hitting line drives to the left field gap, that's when I'm right. And that is when I am on and I'm going to get hot and I'm going to perform well because that is what I'm trying to do. And I love that. And I wish more baseball players would do that and be like, when I accomplish what I'm trying to do, this is what you're going to see. And I know it's not always the same thing every time, but I always thought that was great. A stat that I wanted to talk about with you that I noticed this morning. Fernando Tatis Jr., in the last 28 days, he has played 24 games. He's hitting .255, his on base is .386. Fine, whatever. He has 24 hits and 18 walks. So what's that? 42 times on base. One of them's a home run. So we'll say 41 times on base. I don't know how many of those are triples. He has stolen 3 bases and been caught stealing twice over a month, where he's been on base with an opportunity to steal about 40 times. Now, I've heard people complaining that this has something to do with Luis Arraez batting behind him, that Luis Arraez is too aggressive, not giving him a chance to steal, or, hitting too many foul balls when Tatis is taking off. But I love that Tatis is walking all the time now. I love that his defense is fantastic. The power has been gone. We've talked about that. I'm actually okay with that. He's a 5-tool player. If he becomes a 4-tool player, he's still a very valuable player. But if he's a 3-tool player, he borders on getting overpaid eventually with this contract. What do you take away from the low stolen base numbers from Tatis for the last month or so?
Well, they've been low, haven't they? I mean, he's not.
He's got 24 on the season. It's not great, but it's not 2 a month.
Yeah.
By the way, 5 caught stealings for the year. 24 stolen bases, 5 on the year, and for the last month, 3 stolen bases, 2 caught stealings. You think maybe he's got like an ache in his leg somewhere?
Maybe he's just not feeling it. I think base stealing is very much a mindset. You gotta. This is. Yes, there's a physical component to it, but there's also a mental component. You got to believe that you're going to go. You got to believe that you're going to make it.
You got to be Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, even guys sliding head first, right? Like I can always remember a conversation like, well, why don't you tell these guys not to slide head first? I'm like, they need to do that to feel like they can run. That's that's just kind of the mentality that they have. Doesn't matter how you explain it to them that going feet first actually, is quicker.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's just the way the guys feel. Maybe he's just not feeling it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't know that he's, he certainly seems to move around pretty well in the outfield. Even when he takes a less than ideal route like he did in right yesterday, he still figures out a way to make the play.
Yeah.
So there doesn't look to see, I don't see anything that looks like it's physically limiting towards him.
Me neither.
I would just guess maybe also, you don't, for all the bunting, you would think maybe you'd move around a little bit more on the bases, but maybe he's just not feeling it. And I think that's probably part of what makes a good base stealer, a great base stealer is that they feel like they just know they're going to go, they're going to make it. And, maybe he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. We don't need to go down the whole Arise batting second path. We could just leave it at that. I just saw it. It was, I'm not gonna say it was concerning. I was just like, whoa, that seems lower than I'm used to from him.
Yeah. I mean, maybe him being on base helps Arise, right? Fielder got to keep Fernando on, keep him on first. But even the other day, like there was one of these pitchers from San Francisco threw over to Fernando with Fernando on first, threw over twice. So that was 2 disengagements in like back to back. And even Mudd said on the broadcast, well, Fernando's going to go, right?
Right.
Now you have to go. Like you almost have to go because, the pitcher can't step off again. He can't throw. Otherwise it's, we're running into it being a ball. And he didn't go. And it was just like okay, that was interesting. And, they ended up scoring a bunch of runs, so it became an afterthought.
It didn't matter,
yeah.
I was talking with our buddy Dylan from Letters to AJ the other day when we were talking about Manny tried to do the hidden ball trick, and it kind of backfired on him.
Right.
And then we were talking about all the bunting. And
it was a balk, right?
It did end up being a balk, but we were talking about that and all the bunting that Schilt is doing, and I think it's something else. And I was like, he's managing this team almost like it's a little league team. Like he's just like playing around with stuff all the time, which like, hey, he's getting good results. So who am I to question him? But if he's doing all that, you have Fernando Tatis Jr. up first, leadoff, and his on-base percentage is .370 this year. That's fantastic. And behind him, you have a left-handed hitter, so making it harder for the catcher to throw down to first or even throw down to second or whatever. You have a left-handed hitter who's the best contact hitter we've had in baseball in decades. Why don't they hit and run like every time? There's like no danger to it except, maybe Arise fouls a couple off and you wear Tatis out. But it seems like every single time Tatis is on first and Arise is up, it should just be hit and run. Like every play should just be hit and run. Every pitch.
All right, give him the sign. John's going to motion in from the cheap seats that he wants a hit and run here.
Please.
I think Schulte's been pretty successful when he does call the hit and runs. He's actually had some pretty good success with it. So, I don't know. Things are going pretty well here.
He knows what he's doing. Looks like it.
Yeah, things are going pretty well. So, 20 runs in 3 games against San Francisco, lifeless as they might have been. Yeah, I'm about it. A couple quick points here. One, hopefully everybody enjoyed the front row seat delivered to your inbox today. That happens every single time if you're a subscriber to Section 1904. If you were distracted yesterday and you listen or were watching the Padre game, please do go back and catch up on yesterday's podcast with Adnan Virk from MLB Network, who has a book out called The Cinephile Pod, or he used to have a podcast called The Cinephile Pod. Now the name of the book is just called Cinephile. I did go back in and I did order it from the publisher yesterday after hearing that horrible, horrible situation that you only make $2 if you order it from Amazon, but you make $6 if you order it from the distributor. So I did
$8.
go back and $8. I mean, that's a massive difference in book sales. So I did go back and I did order it, a couple of them yesterday. But do go back and listen to that. Also, guest coming up today. Marko Mitrović is the head coach of the U.S. under-20 national team. So people who are into club soccer understand San Diego Football Club, or maybe you're a Tottenham Hotspur fan like John and you watched with disappointment yesterday, watching Spurs win the
Thanks, Darren.
winning the Super Cup. They were winning until they weren't, and then in penalty kicks, PSG ends up winning the European Super Cup. That pitted the Champions League winner against the Europa League winner. So that was yesterday. We have like full slates of European soccer matches coming up this weekend. Premier League, La Liga, both start on Friday. But one tournament that I will be paying attention to, and I think a lot of other people will be as well, is the Under-20 World Cup. Yes, that is a real thing for those that are new to the sport. You know the World Cup is coming to the U.S. next summer. It's going to be here, whatever it looks like. It's going to be coming to the United States, Mexico, and Canada. So 3 countries, the World Cup every 4 years, everybody knows it. Every couple of years, they have a tournament called the Under-20 World Cup, and it's exactly as it's described. Players who are 20 and under are eligible to be on the roster. There are 6 players currently on the SDFC roster who have been called up by the U.S. Under-20 team in the last 12 months. That would include Luca Bombino, who's a regular starter for SDFC and Mikey Varas. That would include Oscar Verhoeven, who has started 12 games, I think it is, 12, something like that. Didn't start most recently, dealing with a little bit of a knock there. Aiden Harangi, who just started and played his first 90 minutes this past weekend against Sporting KC. David Vasquez, who started this past weekend. Pedro Soma, who had been playing for Barcelona B and a club called Cornellà in Spain. He's now part of the roster, and he's signed for the next couple of years. Goalkeeper Darren Ferry, who is a local product, who started his professional career with San Diego Loyal. That's 6. Those are 6 names potentially eligible to participate in the Under-20 World Cup, which is going to be in Chile, in South America, coming up at the end of September. Depending on how far the U.S. goes, you do the standard 3 group games, and then if you advance out of the group, you go and you play in some knockout games. The U.S. has never made it further than the quarterfinals in this tournament. This is the 18th time qualifying. I don't know what this is going to look like in terms of how many SDFC players are going to be called up. Now, one quick caveat on this, John. Unlike the World Cup, clubs are not obligated to release their players here. So let's say all 6 of these guys were to get called up, which is not going to happen. SDFC could say, no, we're going to let you take 1. We're going to let you take 2.
Right.
We'll let you 0.
But we're not giving up what we need these guys right now.
Too important. You know,
Yeah.
we're going for a supporter shield here. I was on a podcast the other day where Tyler Heaps was being interviewed, and I had the chance to ask Tyler. You know, he said something about, we want our players to participate in big tournaments. I said, does the Under-20 World Cup qualify as a big tournament? He said, yeah. I said, so when U.S. Soccer comes to calling here at the end of September, if they want a couple of your players to go and participate in the Under-20 World Cup, you're going to allow them to go? He said, yeah. I said, you have like 6 of them, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, he goes, I don't know how many are going to get called up, but, he goes, I would guess that we're probably going to have 1 or 2 guys that are going to be invited. Luca Bombino and Darren Ferry and Vasquez and Soma were all at a recent camp in Egypt. So Not sure exactly what it's going to look like, but we had a chance to chat with Marko Mitrović, who is the head coach of the Under-20 World Cup team. They are playing their first game September 29th against New Caledonia. John, do you have any memories of Old Caledonia?
So many.
New Caledonia, France, and South Africa. That is the group that the U.S. has been placed in. And so we had a chance to chat. Now, Marko Mitrović is he's been the Olympic coach for U.S. soccer. He's been with a lot of these players because he was the under-19 coach. Yes, there are a lot of these levels. There's under-19, there's under-17. It's a whole system here. So we had a chance to chat with him. Fun guy, Serbian-born, naturalized U.S. citizen. And, I figured he knows some of these players more than we do, because he's been around them a little bit longer than some of us. So, again, this is 6 weeks away, but enjoy the conversation here with U.S. Under-20 World Cup squad head coach Marko Mitrović. Marko, first, before we get started on the process for putting together a roster for the Under-20 World Cup, how does a soccer-playing mathematician become one of the big-time coaches in U.S. soccer? Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to this position in life.
It's interesting. Yeah, thank you for the question. Not often I get that question. So I always had two loves, big loves in my life. One was math, and I was quite talented mathematician, and the other side was soccer. And when I was 17 years old, I had to make decision in what direction I'm gonna go, But probably coming from country where football or soccer it's a big cultural thing, and it was kind of organic decision for me to keep going as a soccer player and later to stay as a soccer coach. I have a big, I would say soccer is my life, really. I have massive respect for this game, and this game gave me so much fun in my life. So yeah, and obviously as a player and then later as a coach, we all have different paths, but I'm really happy and for everything that I got from this game so far in my life.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. And you were, as a kid, you were part of the Red Star Belgrade Academy, correct? That is one of the bigger European clubs, European champs in the early 90s. What was that experience like? We talk a lot about academies now, relatively new concept in the United States, but for you, what was that whole experience like? Was that a positive experience?
I think that I spent 12 years as a player in Red Star, and I coached in academy for 2 seasons. So I think it shaped me a lot as a person. Red Star, as you said, is one of the biggest, definitely one of the biggest clubs in Eastern Europe, and one of the clubs that traditionally is known for development of the young players. Always one of the best academies in the world. I would say like this, something that I learned as a coach there. You have 3 questions when you're in Red Star. So number 1, they ask you, what was the score? And if you win by 3-0, they ask you like, why wasn't 5-0? So they're never happy, never satisfied, which is great. I think it always keeps you out of comfort zone. The second thing is they ask you, how did you play? Because you have to play good football. There is no negotiation about that, and I think they have a high standards when you speak about style of playing and demands for the players on the field. Because as I said, it's a lead development academy, and standard and demands are very high. And the third thing is because stadium is in a hall. It's a massive stadium, but it's in a hall, so they have expression where they ask you how many players you have for the hall. So you kind of have to check really on a high level all the boxes, because you have to win. And you have to win big all the time. You have to play great football and great soccer, and also you have to have players for the first team that because this is one of the main funds for the club, like by selling those young players to Europe, and it's mandatory to develop and produce young players.
Yeah. Should academy life be fun for players? That's one thing I think that we're learning a little bit as we'll talk a little bit about San Diego Football Club and the whole Right to Dream Academy. But sometimes you get the impression that players coming through academies, especially in their teens, like you wonder, where the line is between having fun and running the risk of burning out. How much fun do you get the sense players are having when they're in some of these academies around the world?
I think we all have to create environments for that. Like as the coaches and the clubs, we have to create environment where players will have fun, but fun that it's kind of business fun, if I can say, because at the early stage, especially when you're in elite clubs, those elite clubs select elite players, and new players are coming year after year. So you have no time to sleep, if that makes sense, because new players will come and take your spot. So there is consistent need for improvement and for the work. As I said, otherwise somebody else will come and take your spot. But you have to create environment as a coach that players can enjoy as much as they can. And on the other side, I think as a player, you also have to find a fun part, because you're surrounded with elite players. You always play great games. You have great resources. You have everything what you need in order to develop and go step by step in your development process. But is it easy? It's not. Like as I said, you compete with so many good players potentially that can come in your environment. It's not like your present environment. It's also like, okay, next year he'll be new players here, and year after year you have to fight with all this while you're improving and developing as a player. I think it shapes you as a person and your mentality. It put you in the right spot. When you make those first professional steps, you're more ready for that.
Well, you are getting set. You're about 6 weeks away from taking the under-20 national team to Chile to compete in the under-20 World Cup. Your first match is going to be September 29th. Marko, tell us a little bit about the process. Like where are we today here, midway through August? Where are you in the process of building a roster, of finalizing travel plans? What do the next couple of weeks look like for you as the head coach of the under-20s?
Yeah, I think that the logistics, we really have great support within Federation. Different departments work on their needs, and we are quite set. We visited Chile twice with two different delegations to learn about everything and to kind of set ourselves to be ready for that. And we are really good. Like I can say from that perspective, we can go today and to the World Cup. Also, if we speak about the opponents, we are really advanced as well. Now our group opponents, but also we are trying to learn about every team in the World Cup, because it's very condensed tournament. Every 3 days you play the games, and you have 7 games from the first group stage until the final. So we want to know as much as possible about every opponent in advance. We speak about purely us players and our game style, game model. Like we have this September camp with 2 friendlies against Morocco, where it's going to be like final touch. But I'm quite positive where is the group with understanding of who we are, what is our identity, what are our anchors on the field, what are our principles. That's I would say really positive about this group. It's always every new camp, every new training session, every new game, it's a new opportunity for us to become better individually and as a group. And I think that the biggest challenge that we have right now is actually communication with the clubs about players' releases for the World Cup. Because as you know, the first part of the World Cup, it's outside the FIFA window where, players are not protected by FIFA, that they are mandatory to be released. So that's part of negotiation with the clubs now that it's ongoing process.
And what is that process like? I'm around SDFC a little bit, and I got the sense, and there are like 6 eligible players here, Marko. I'm sure SDFC has arrived on your radar screen, but I got the sense talking to Tyler Heaps the other day. He wants players to participate in big tournaments, and he thinks the Under-20 World Cup is a big tournament. I don't know that every club is that cooperative, especially given where on the calendar this tournament lands. It's right at the end of the MLS season, right? The end of the regular season, heading into the playoffs. So, there's some players like Luca Bombino, who is an every match starter, and Oscar Verhoeven, et cetera. What is that conversation like? I mean, when you have to call to some of the clubs to ask for these players, the clubs have to sign off on it not everybody's obligated to do it. So how does that conversation usually go?
Yeah, I think every club literally has different perspective. I think leadership in San Diego, they've been part of U.S. soccer, and they know actually from this perspective how big is that tournament and how much that means for the players' development, and actually how much everybody can gain for players being eligible and playing the World Cup. But I would say that every club has their own stories and their own view, their own needs when they make their decisions. So what we are trying to do is to try to, I cannot say educate the clubs, but maybe when we communicate with them, to give them a bigger picture, like about the whole tournament, playing for the national team in the World Cup. There is not a bigger stage for those guys in their age, playing with their peers. Something that I believe every player dreams to go, to represent your country in the high stage. And if you just go history, how many big players played actually on the 20s World Cup. I don't think that you can name one big player that his team didn't qualify and he was eligible, that he didn't play it on the 20s World Cup. It's a massive tournament. I was lucky to play that tournament 10 years ago with Serbia. And I can see how that tournament impacted players after that and their development. But as I said, that's a piece where we're trying to explain, let's say, to the clubs, but every club has their own perspective. So, as I said.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and you're right, because Mikey Varas and Tyler Heaps both come from U.S. soccer, so they will understand this perhaps a little bit more. You just touched on it there, that you were one of the coaches on the Serbian side that won the Under-20 World Cup in 2015. Got through the United States, by the way. I remember watching that one. I was at a bar at a wedding in Eureka, California, when you won in penalty kicks. You talked a little bit about how that helped change some of those players. Could you expand on that a little bit for people that aren't quite clear on what the Under-20 World Cup, what it might mean? I mean, what was the impact of winning that tournament that you were a coach for?
Yeah, obviously, I would say this one thing is winning. It's always, there's something that stays forever, like you win the World Cup and but maybe sometimes you don't need to go that far. That players' development will be, if we speak purely about players' development, that will be impacted by that. I would say, and it's easy to, so what was the next step immediately after the World Cup for the group of the players that we worked with, and I would say a lot of them from Serbian league, very after the World Cup, end up going to the best leagues around the world. And you always go and say, okay, how many of those guys that are with our Y&T process in any country around the world, ultimate objective is to bring those guys to the senior team. And I was in Qatar 2022 in the World Cup, and one afternoon I went to visit the Serbia national team, and there was 12 players that were in that World Cup, part of the process, playing the World Cup in Qatar, which I think it's an amazing number. You would say always, if we get 2, 3, 4 players, that would be good. We have 12 of them, So that's I think it's, if you put aside that winning the World Cup, that is something that is ultimate goal for every youth team around the world. Doesn't matter if it's club level or national team level, that's what you want to achieve. And that big tournament is a big experience and something that shapes the players and help them to make that next step. And obviously having 12 players later in the senior World Cup on the roster, it's something that says a lot how much that can help the players.
Yeah, and this is the last stop too for the youth national team players who want to be part of the 2026 roster next summer in the United States. Where, generally speaking, Marko, where should a 20-year-old player, what should that player's career look like? We'll circle to the San Diego players, but I mentioned Luca Bombino, who's really been he's been a mainstay. He started 18 times. He's played 20 times. Oscar Verhoeven, before picking up a knock, has been a regular starter. We're now going to get to know Pedro Soma a little bit, David Vasquez. But these guys are getting first-team minutes. And this is a huge job that you have, just trying to figure out around the world where all the talent is. Oftentimes, it's at a lower level, or maybe it's on a reserve team. Where do you think, where should a 20-year-old player who has aspirations of playing for a national team in a World Cup, What should that player's career look like, generally speaking? Like, where should that player be? What should the level be?
Yeah, I would just go one step before that, and just so that what I'm going to say later has more like a clarity. Younger you are, I would say training session, it's more important than a game. So like for me, when we speak about 10-year-old or 12-year-old player, he's in a school. Like you're not a coach, you're not coaching the player, you're teaching him to they are learning to play football, they are learning to play soccer, so they're learning about the game. Older you get, games take bigger part of your development, and when you're 20 years old, I would say that games are actually something that is now extremely important for your development. And having a playing time, that's luxury. So players have to go on the highest possible level that they can play. If it's MLS, the highest level that they can play, go in MLS and play. But going in MLS, for example, and you're sitting in the bench and you have like 300 minutes over the year, that's not good for the player's development. You have to go somewhere. I like to go with probably I'm a mathematician, but then I go with the numbers, okay, this should be your objective for this year. Can you get this amount of minutes in the environment? And that where environment that can provide you with this amount of minutes, you should go there and play. So now, is that MLS Next Pro? Is it third division in Germany? Is it MLS? I don't know. That's case by case, player by player. But playing time is so important. It's always important for the players, even if you're 20 years old, 28 years old, you're 30 years old, you're a veteran. But those guys have so many minutes in their legs. So if he doesn't play now 10 games in a row, that's not going to affect him as much as young player, not playing regularly.
Mm-hmm. So you encourage players, wherever it is, third division, MLS Next Pro, getting an opportunity to be a starter like Luca Bombino has, you just say, go figure out where you can play the most minutes. That's the most important thing, regardless of level.
But on the highest level possible for yourself.
On the highest, right.
So,
right.
Yes,
Don't sacrifice, right. I got you. So what have you made of SDFC? I mean, I'm sure this has been on your radar here that they have now 6 players and 6 players for you to choose from. I don't know what that will look like, but recently we saw Pedro Soma come in, and David Vasquez, who led the CONCACAF champions in scoring 2 summers ago, or last summer, I guess it would have been. These are players, obviously, Marko, that you're well aware of. What can you tell us specifically about what you think and what you make of what San Diego Football Club is doing with the youth players here, with these 19-year-olds, these 2006 year graduates that are hoping to be part of the World Cup?
Yeah, again, every club has their own philosophy. Yeah, and then how they approach in establishing the team, establishing the roster, who's the coach there. And I think that what San Diego does, they have philosophy, which with front office supports, it's a high risk when you go with the young players always. But on the other side, I think that we should look at the players, what's their quality, not what's their passport, how old they are. So, and that's something that San Diego does a really great job of selecting the players that they believe have potential to play for them, and perform. Obviously, there's also where they still have to develop those guys, On the other side, they have Mikey Varas, Mikey, who was deeply involved in players' development in his previous stages, but also Mikey, who coached in MLS, who was assistant coach with our MNT. So someone who has also high understanding of what are the needs on the senior level, So and I really appreciate Mikey as a person and as a coach. And I think for their philosophy and what they want to achieve, Mike is perfect fit. And Mike is someone who is brave enough to play young players and know what they need for their development. It's just it seems that their philosophy, what they are doing, they're on the same page with every level with the club, and you can see outcome on the field, which is I'm enjoying to watch their games. To be fair, I'm in regular weekly contact with Mikey, and they're fun to watch as a team.
And does it help? Does it matter that you have this group of players, or is there any other team anywhere in the world that has this kind of collection of available talent for you? Does it help them that they're playing together, that they're in this system, at least as far as your process will be in terms of selecting a roster?
Yes, something like, it's always is good when players spend more time together, because with the national team, you're restricted with number of camps and number of days per year. However, those players, all those guys that are now in San Diego, are for a long time with our youth process. So like they know they were. I would say I don't know now from top of my head, but I think they are coming from 6 different actually environments before that. So, but their united environment was with our YNT process. So, yeah, I mean, it's I would say like it was easier for them to adapt to San Diego because they knew each other before. At least they had someone there that, oh, this is my friend for a long time, and I feel comfortable with him. But again, what was your question? It's always great to have players in our environment that they spend more time together in the club.
What can you tell us about Pedro Soma? This is a player that we've seen a little bit in Leagues Cup, but he has not played an MLS match yet. We've seen Aiden Harangi. He's played. Vasquez started last week. We know Bombino and Verhoeven pretty well. Duran Ferry, goalkeeper. But it feels like a lot of people really buzz about Pedro Soma. He's worn the captain's armband for the under-20s before. Comes from Spain, where he was playing and getting first-team minutes as well. Feels like there's a lot of people who are really, really high on him specifically. Marko, what could you tell us about Soma?
Yeah. Pedro is someone who is, if we speak about his style of playing, I think coming from the Spain, or actually time that he spent in Spain, really shaped him as a player. And he's a very technical midfielder, who is, I would say, like a passer on the field. But he's also very mature for his age. I like to talk to Pedro. He can give you good feedback on like training session, exercise, on certain tactical things. Someone who is really focused and aware during the training session and the games. Very reliable. As I said, he's very mature for his age. There are still things in his game that he has to develop, and I actually think he's in the right hands because Mikey will and his coaching staff will identify that very quickly. And Diego is someone who is very open to work and to improve. And I can see that. I actually believe that he can just benefit from being now in San Diego and work on his further development.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like working with a guy like Jeppe Terskov too is going to be pretty impactful. It looks like he's a little miniature version of Jeppe at times when I was able to watch him a bit on film. So having a true number 6 like that, I would think is going to be really, really good for his development as well.
I actually think it's a great point that you're saying because sometimes we go with the coaching, but I 100% agree with you. But having a great teammates around you that you can learn, and there can be like, I can't say like role models for you, but, I can take this from this guy, So that's another benefit that we don't talk too much, but I think for young players, when they're surrounded with a real good veterans or players that are regular starters, they can learn from them as well a lot.
Whether you take 1 or 2 or 0 SDFC players, how are you feeling overall about the depth of the squad? I would imagine you're pretty bullish on it. The U.S. has qualified 18 times for this tournament. You've seen them in action on the other side. How are you feeling overall about the chances for success? How do we define success for the Under-20 World Cup in 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's listen, one thing that is ultimate, everybody will define success based on results. Like, you cannot hide behind the results. There is no, for me, obviously we have to see what roster is going to be for us because different players, different profiles, different characteristics on the field, which probably will shape the way we want to play, I would always say this. As long as we stick with our anchors on the field, I'm good and I'm positive we're going to get a good outcome, and that's something that players know in our environment. There is no negotiation about that, and on top of that, as much as talent we leave on the field will be more successful, but I'm positive about this group. I would say that I'm curious to see how our final roster will look like. And if we get the roster that I would love to have, where I will tell you, this group is very competitive group.
And when should we expect the roster? I mean, you had to figure at some point. I'm just going to flat out ask, how many San Diego players are you going to take?
Yeah, the final roster for FIFA selection, we will announce it somewhere in the second part of September. So we still have a few weeks, but there are deadlines for certain, like a bigger roster that we have to submit to FIFA. Then those are FIFA dates. It's August 18th, and then I think September 22nd is the final roster that we have to submit to FIFA.
All right. Well, maybe we'll see you out at Snapdragon Stadium. Why don't you come visit and see some of these guys with in person?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, because it sounds like, am I wrong? I mean, am I barking up the wrong tree? But it sounds like I'm guessing at least 2 of our guys are going to join you in Chile.
We'll see.
Okay, leave it right there on the edge as well. We will see. Like I said, it could be upwards of 5 or 6. So, Marko, I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Best of luck, and thank you for the scouting report on some of our players. We appreciate the time, and good luck to the U.S. Under-20s in the World Cup starting late September.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for your time. Appreciate that.
All right, I was hoping he would spill the beans, but guess we're not to that point yet for the roster coming up in the middle of September. But I don't know, John, what do you think? I'm both crediting Tyler Heaps and Mikey Vadas for making these players available, and also going, wait a minute, we're trying to win a supporter shield around here. Can't have some of our most important players playing in Chile. What are we doing? But I think I understand the sentiment.
I understand the sentiment. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I understand the sentiment from this perhaps wrong perspective. They are trying to build an academy. They're trying to bring in younger and younger players to be a part of the future of this club. And the younger players, that's not a draft. When they get a 15, 16-year-old guy to come in and live at the academy and learn here, those are essentially free agents, right? Like they just sign them, bring them in. And I think it would mean a lot to building up an academy if you could say, A, we let our players go out and learn. We don't try and keep them boxed in. We want them to learn. We want them to grow their star. We want them to represent their countries, et cetera, et cetera. But I also think it would mean something, especially in America, to be like, we had more players on the under-20 U.S. team, U.S. men's team, than any other, MLS squad. So if you are playing in Poway, Escondido, San Diego, anywhere else in the country, and they're trying to get you, I guarantee that's a thing that they would like to be able to say. So I look at it as like, if you're trying to build up an academy quickly, that is probably not a bad hook to have in your back pocket.
100%. Totally agree with you. As I said, there is this small percentage of me that is being completely selfish in saying, but wait a second, the end of September, these games, these could be really, really important games if you want to win the West. But I guess it is more important in the big picture to do exactly what it is that you're saying. If you're going to build a structure around younger players, and that clearly is going to be the identity of San Diego Football Club, not only in the here and now, but in the future as well, that, you also have to celebrate the successes that those young players have when they get these kind of opportunities. Yeah. And, if you're going to be true to who you are and say things like, well, we want these guys to get called up. We want them to go play for their national teams. That apparently has been part of the conversation with Anders Dreyer, with Ani Valakari. These guys, before they were even signed, said, one of my career goals is to get back in with my national team.
Yeah.
And that happened. That happened for Anders. That happened for Valakari, that he was recently in World Cup qualifying tournaments. So, or in a World Cup qualifier, I should say. So, again, I don't know. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 guys. I think it would probably be 1 or 2 if I were guessing, and I'm just guessing. I think it would be Luca Bombino and Pedro Soma, although we haven't seen much of Soma, and he might be a little bit more on the European clock, so who knows where he is physically. Vasquez, though, has been a contributor for them. So, Harangi. But it looks like I'm guessing it'll be 2. And, I think it's a credit to SDFC that they don't have to let these guys go play, but they're determined to let these guys go play. Maybe some of that is the experience that Mikey was the head coach of the under-20s. And Tyler does come from the U.S. Soccer Federation. So, they understand a little bit about it.
Right.
But I think your point is the more important point. This is who the club wants to be. And like the under-20 World Cup, I don't know. Is Luca Bambino on the radar for Mauricio Pochettino? I don't know. But you know how you get on the radar is you participate and you play well in this tournament. If you're Luca Bambino, if you're Pedro Soma, if you're Vasquez, you participate and you play well in this tournament. And then that way you get on the radar for Mauricio Pochettino so that he goes, well, who is that guy who's playing left back there who had this outstanding tournament? Because maybe I'm a little short at left back coming up next summer. And maybe that's the kind of player that would fit into my system. You know, like think about Luca Bambino already, that we're hearing transfer rumors with him and West Brom, right? And the transfer window's still open. So I hope he doesn't go anywhere, but I understand if West Brom continues its pursuit of him. So, you know, this will be part of it, but that's how you end up getting on these radars for these other teams, these other clubs, these other leagues, and especially the national team coaches. You go out there and you perform, and maybe you're part of a team that does something that's never been done before by the U.S. under-20s. 18 times qualifying, quarterfinals is the furthest this team has ever gotten. Oh, by the way, Marko Mitrović, as we said during the interview, he was on the Serbian coaching staff that knocked out the U.S. in 2015. I remember I was at a wedding. I was watching that game. Went to penalty kicks because Paul Arriola was on the side, and I was watching it in New Zealand. It was agonizing. It went to like the 9th round of penalty kicks. Serbia went on to win it. So, you know, this is an under-20 winning coach who's now coaching the U.S. national team under 20. So,
wait, I have a couple responses to what you just said.
Yeah.
First of all, you're sick man, Darren.
Yeah, I know. Sitting in a bar like, hey, man, can you guys get the under-20s in here?
You're like, I'm at a wedding and I'm watching this game on my phone and I remember every last detail of it, even though at that time I'm sure your radio job did not leave you much opportunity to talk about said game. You were going to watch it anyway because you're a sick man. Secondly, comments on Marko Mitrović. Number one, I went to his Wikipedia page, and you'll find out why in a second. There's a couple times in which I think he's been an interim manager at a couple places, except they didn't call it interim manager, and I like their term so much better. Do you know what the term is?
No.
Caretaker.
Oh, I like that.
Caretaker manager, not interim, caretaker. That's so much better. He's been a caretaker manager twice. But I was checking to see if his Wikipedia listed any sort of children or spouses, because when he started off by saying like the two loves of his life are math and football, I was like, man, if I was a family member of his, I'd be slightly annoyed by that. But, you know, as far as his Wikipedia page goes, there's none of that. It's just math and football.
Yeah, he went to a pretty prestigious math school in Belgrade. Grew up in Serbia, Serbia, Yugoslavia. My history is probably not perfect on this, but grew up and went to this really prestigious math school. And you're like, how did this math guy end up becoming such an important figure in the U.S. Soccer Federation? And even to the point where I wasn't going to embarrass him, but I was reading one story about how Marko Mitrović is a rising star in U.S. soccer. So there you go. We have our first rising star on the Section 1904 podcast.
Hey.
I know. I was really trying to dig deep. Like, come on, man. How many players are you going to take? He's like, wait and see. Have to wait and see what happens.
Do you think he's decided?
Probably not.
Probably not.
He's probably
got a big list that he's keeping an eye on. But to a point that you made earlier, I would be surprised if you told me that Mauricio Pochettino watched a lot of MLS. I guarantee you he's watching every one of these games.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And, Marko probably is spending a lot of time, like you said, watching SDFC, likes the style. And it can only help the under-20s.
Right.
That 6 of these guys are playing together.
Right. Exactly. And practice together, know each other, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll see. Could be a real point of pride for SDFC, depending on what the selection looks like coming up in about a month's time. So, but, that's 6 weeks away. But catch as catch can here. So thank you to the U.S. Soccer Federation for making Marko Mitrović available to us. All right, John, I guess that's a wrap. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. What are you going to do with no Padres?
What am I going to do with no Padres? I'm probably going to try and watch more of this Tom Brady thing, which I don't know if you caught. There was a link in the front row seat where
Wayne Rooney
he's not too happy about the criticism he saw from Tom Brady. So I'm probably going to watch some more of that. But other than that, I don't know. It might be a little bit low key.
Yeah. Wayne Rooney was disappointed. He said, "I don't know that Tom really understands football," which is just funny when you think about the double entendre of the word. You say, how often in life can you say that Tom Brady really doesn't understand football?
But I loved the fact that he was like, yeah, he showed up and he was like, this practice is not intense enough. And he's like, it's the day before a game, dude.
I think Tom came in once, which is the day before a game where the days are a little bit lighter anyway. I don't think he really understood football that well. But what he does understand is he's a hard worker. We know that. Football is not the NFL. NFL works for 3 months a year. Players do need rest as well. So I think it's very unfair the way he's come out and he's portrayed that. I wouldn't be happy if I were Wayne Rooney either. But somehow, Brady almost looks worse in that first episode. No.
Yeah.
But I guess to their credit, as you watch the series, they do end up getting promoted and they do invest a bunch of money into the club. So we'll see where it goes. But the first episode was not a banner one for Tom Brady or for Wayne Rooney or for anybody for that.
Yeah.
As we discussed yesterday. So maybe I'll watch that as well. We'll see where the day takes us. All right. Cool. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Thank you for subscribing. We'll see you on Discord a little later. We'll see what kind of day it is there. But again, if you missed anything yesterday with Adnan Virk, getting him to just randomly talk about different movies for no reason whatsoever, other than I happen to have saved some of these DVDs and comparing Brad Pitt to Manny Machado, I thought was good content. So go back and check that out if you missed it. No, I just think he was caffeinated to answer some of the questions that were on the Discord channel. Although we did have people say, I normally listen to this played back at a quicker speed, and I had to slow it down for Adnan. So,
hey, we're a couple of Northeastern boys. We talk pretty fast, but yeah, Adnan's on a different level.
He is, and he's just like no notes, ready to rock at all times. All righty, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll do it again Friday.